mental hospital, robbed at gunpoint, assaulted in the courtroom, and catching 2 felony charges, facing up to 10 years in prison for something that I did not do. All that here on this episode of One Stop Shop.
Break it. The red pill brought me out of the matrix, so I see it off of what it is.
Alright, peace, family. It's your host, Rock. Welcome to another episode of the One Stop Shop. And today we have a packed episode. It's taken me a minute to make this one because I really had to prepare my mind and my spirit to speak about the things that I'm going to be talking about today. As you can see, I'm rocking the shades. It's raining outside and I got the sleepy eyes going, but I told myself that I have to wake up and make another episode for you guys. So for all of you that have made it to part 8, and you guys have made it through over half of the testimony series now, salute to you all. You guys are real supporters, real troopers, for real. As you can see, I'm rocking the holy shirt again today. If you haven't gotten your holy shirt, you need to do so fast. All right, they're starting to sell, so go ahead and get you one. I also have my healing cup. I'm sipping on some green tea, some maca and manuka honey in it too. What y'all know about that? As always, this video is sponsored by the Healing Cup. Go support sister in the faith that is doing an extraordinary job of really sharing with our community the importance of taking care of our health. As I always say, I'm biased. My personal favorite is Inner Peace. But go out, support, get you some tea, take care of your vessel. Let's get started. All right, for those of you that are just joining, I'll do a quick recap. I've been in the Bible now for about 7 years. And I came in 2018 through Flat Earth. He had to show me a roundabout way. I did not believe in the Bible. He had to show me through science that the earth is in fact a circular plane with the dome overhead, as it is written in Genesis 1. Then found out that we, the melanin people of America, we are the true people of the Bible. We were sold into slavery for disobeying Yah's covenants, and I found out about that. Then around that same time, found out that my ex that I was with was cheating on me while I was away in college. Sad case. And then found out what true biblical marriage looks like. After I had to put her away, I then went into a cult. I went into Straightway Truth Ministries led by Pastor Dow and had an entire experience there. I also talked about my experience in Freemasonry as an ex-master Mason, and then talked about my life-altering car crash that I got into, coming out of that and signing a deal with Sony Music as a songwriter. So it's been a really full action-packed testimony. These past 7 years has definitely been eventful, to say the least. But now I'm about to take it up a notch. So that was from 2018 to 2023, everything that we talked about. And I left off in 2022, where I moved down to help out a sister in the faith on a farm, because that's what God told me to do at the time. He told me to go ahead and leave my apartment that I had and go help this sister. Didn't know why. It was just being obedient. Come to find out that it's really to get my older brother, who I wasn't as close to at the time as I am now, it was to get him into the faith. So all praise to the Most High. He's now in the faith. He's going hard with it. So yeah, all praises to the Most High, for real. But in this episode, I'm going to be talking about, a lot. I'll start with the mental hospital. A lot of times as believers, we don't really take into consideration our mental health. I know I didn't. At the age of 26, I went into a mental hospital, outpatient, but still going to group therapy every day because it felt like I had reached my wit's end. I was doing everything. I was being the best saint, because I call myself a saint. I don't subscribe to Christian or Hebrew Israelite anymore. It gets too messy for me. I have love for both of y'all, but I must just call myself a saint. It's in the scripture. Some people call themselves disciples, whatever. I'm a saint of the Most High. So as a saint, we don't really talk about our mental health too much. And yeah, I really just reached the end. I was dealing with a lot, didn't know how to manage the PTSD from the car accident, didn't know how to deal with anxiety and depression of all the things that were coming in. 26 tends to be an interesting year for men. I remember my grandma telling me when I was about 15 that a man's frontal lobe doesn't fully develop until he's 25. His brain doesn't form completely until he's 25, and at the time I didn't believe her. But once I hit 25, 26, that's when I realized that, she's right. Something clicked, and I was able to see everything for what it was. And that's when I had to make a few pivots in my life, and was really just hearing information that I might have heard before, but I was able to receive it differently. So yeah, I was just processing, dealing with stuff from childhood that it went unchecked. There were a lot of traumatic things that took place in my childhood that I just pushed off till later, and just thought that, hey, once I get some money, I'll deal with all my problems on a private island. I'll be out the mix, and I'll just deal with it then. Not knowing that as I continue to get older, there's going to be more and more problems stacked on top. And these problems at the bottom that I never dealt with, they're just going to continue to get heavier and heavier. And with all the weight stacked on top. And at that time, man, that was it. I didn't know what to do. My god sister, she really stepped up and helped out at that time. And, she was like, hey, trust me. I need you to trust me. I'm like, okay, I trust you. Came over to her house, and we were just talking, and the lights went out. And at that time, she was like, hey, I was praying before you came over here, and I told God to give me a sign. The fact that the lights went off, I take it as a sign from God that what I'm doing is, for your best interest. She was like, yo, I went through a similar thing when I was your age, and this really helped me out a lot. So I went up there. I really just got the help that I needed. The help that I needed was just tools. It was just tools so that moving forward in this life, I know how to properly set boundaries for myself. I'm not just taking the shirt off my back for everybody. I'm not just overextending myself and don't have enough for me anymore. So now that I know what it looks like, I know how to properly manage myself and not, do too much. So, for anybody that's out there that's dealing with mental, might be dealing with some stuff, of course we have deliverance. As believers, we have deliverance, and, I definitely subscribe to that. However, to really strengthen your mental, if you've been going through a lot of things in this life, I do suggest that you reach out to a therapist, because this spiritual walk is different. The spiritual walk it'll have you going through some things. And if you're going through it by yourself, like I was at the time, then it could be really trippy. People sitting there and they got a lot to say on your name. You're getting attacked from all different angles, because now Satan knows that you're the chosen, and Satan's going to attack you. And so, that group therapy and her taking me up there and doing that, it was very helpful for me. I was able to learn a lot. I don't want to keep dwelling on it, but I have to make it known that, as a believer, it's okay to go through things. We might have breakdowns here and there, and it's fine. Just pick yourself up and keep persevering to the end. That's it. So that gave me a second wind. It showed me how to really move the way that I need to move as a man going forward, especially with what the Father is about to do for my life. I needed that in order to know how to properly manage certain things. So all praise to the Most High. Let's keep going. So after I left the hospital, I began to rebuild my life. The Father told me in September 2022 that it was time to go back and get my sister now. I had gone down and I had done what I needed to do on the farm. I left for the farm in February of 2022. By September, he said it's time to go back. By January 4th of the next year, that's when I got checked into the hospital and I didn't go back. That was in 2023. So now I'm rebuilding my life. He's telling me to go back to Atlanta, and at that time I didn't really understand why. I'm like, Father, you know that this shit is about to hit the fan, right? Why do you want me to go back to Atlanta? You know, I need to get out of Babylon. You told me to flee into, you know, why are you telling me to go back? And then now being 2025 and seeing that my sister's in the truth, and, you know, she yearns to get baptized, and she's giving her life to the Father, and it's such a beautiful thing, and just knowing that he told me to go back to get her, and now we're living together and seeing the growth that she's gone through just in the past year, it's a beautiful thing. So in 2023, that's when I started making my way back. Family friend, God bless her soul, allowed me to stay with her, and yeah, just really started rebuilding my life. And that was February of 2023. She allowed me to stay with her, and and at this time, I started getting into researching some stuff. June of 2023, I was going down to Jacksonville and I got some speeding tickets. Got caught in this little small town, and it was a speed trap I was going 50 and 35. It went from 55 to 35 in a matter of like half a mile. Long story short, got caught, gave me some speeding tickets, and went on my way. And then that September, I remember one of my brothers in the faith, Andy, he reached out to me and he started telling me about this law. And I had heard about the law through one of my friends, Shy, at my old job before. She was telling me about these Moors and how they do this law and how they really know the law and whatever about this law. They're pressing us through the law, pretty much, this legal system. And that was in 2019. I wasn't really in the mentality or the mindset to be able to receive it, but for whatever reason, when Andy told me in September 2022, that's when it stuck. And he was telling me, nah, bro, like it's not it, bro. They're really oppressing us, and this is a way out the matrix. You need to get this book called Meet Your Straw Man. I was like, okay, I'll check it out. So I got the book and started reading it. It blew my mind. It blew my mind, for real. They're taking advantage of us through this law. And so me being me, something that the Father is working on with me. I'm a very much so dive off the deep end type of guy. When I learn something, I'm like, okay, I'm diving off the deep end and I'm jumping out the airplane, and I'm gonna figure out how to work the parachute on the way down, because I'm not gonna fail. You're not gonna let me fail. I know that about the Father. Hey, you know how you made me. You made me you made me a dog, man. The Father made me a dog, so I know he's not going to fail me. You know, as it says in Ecclesiasticus, you know, as you continue to fight for truth, Yah's going to fight for you. So, with all that being said, started getting into the law, learning more about it, and I'm green. I don't know what I'm doing, for real. I go to the court February of 2023. I learned some stuff, and I go in there and I try to speak my piece. Now, my kung fu wasn't all the way up at that time. That's why I'm like, I was green, and I actually missed an opportunity where I could have won. However, me not knowing that what a reset looks like, me not knowing that when the judge walks out of the courtroom and they come back in, then they reset the entire room, and everything, all the paperwork that I sent earlier, me coming in by special appearance, sue juris, that all went away. And I know I'm saying some things right now that might be going over some people's heads, and some of you might be sitting there and thinking, why are you even doing this? I've heard many people say, you're supposed to obey the government, you're supposed to do what the government tells you to do, and I'm not disagreeing with that. However, the government that we're in right now is not a government, it's a corporation. And if you know how to actually come out of Babylon and to flee from Babylon, then by all means, we're supposed to do it. There are certain things that are happening right now that are happening because everything is made through contracts. When we go to jail, unfortunately, it's voluntary. Majority of the people that are in jail right now, unfortunately, is voluntarily. It's because they didn't know how to read a contract. They didn't know their rights. They didn't know that all this is essentially banking and contracts and consenting and making tacit agreements and acquiescing by not actually asserting your rights. And again, I know that a lot of this that I'm speaking on right now is very high level, but it gets extremely deep. I've been studying this law now for about 3 years. So that's why I've been MIA on the music side, is because the Father's been really showing me a lot with this law. I've had some run-ins with this law, and I've had some victories with this law. And I'm about to tell you one of them today. I just had another recent victory, which is why I've been MIA making these testimony videos, is because I had to really lock in. I had to really get focused for this war that I just had to engage in. All praise to the Most High, got a victory. But let's go back to February 2023. I'm in the courtroom. I missed the reset. He walked out. He was doing everybody else's, but then walked out for mine. I thought he had to just go take a piss and he was going to come back in. I didn't catch it until my second night in jail, because they locked me up for contempt of court for 3 days. And I didn't catch it until my second night that I was in there that he reset the courtroom. Now, when he came back in, he went right into my case. And I'm sitting there, I'm trying to go back and forth with him, yada, 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 not realizing that everything that I said in my letter of being special, of me coming in as a flesh and blood man, not as the straw man, as some of you might know, the Eligius. I'm coming in as a real man who the Most High Yah created and gave dominion over this earth, as is written in Genesis 1:26, that he gave man dominion. We're the kings of this earth. Is it not written in your law that ye are gods? All right, and when I say gods, I'm talking about little g. Of course, we're the sons of God when it comes to the spiritual realm, but on this plane, we are gods. What we say holds weight. The power is in the tongue. And we do have the power to really change a lot of what's going on this plane through our actions and our free will and our authority that he's given us. So yes, we are kings, we are gods on this plane, earth. So I'm coming in my authority. However, when he reset the courtroom, it put me back under a general jurisdiction where I'm underneath his authority now as the straw man, the all capital letter name. And I'm sure some of you guys are starting to hear more and more about it, about the just that sovereign movement. And yeah, there's a sovereign citizen side of it too, which is kind of an oxymoron, because you can't be a sovereign, which is a king, and a citizen, a subject of the system at the same time. So I don't subscribe myself to be a sovereign citizen. I'm just a free man. I'm just a son of the Most High Yah. That's it. And a king on this plane. So with that, you have to know how to move, because it's one thing for me to say it, but then for my actions to show otherwise, it's not adding up. My actions are more powerful than my words are. I can't say I'm a king but do slave shit. you know, excuse my language, I'm sorry. So, with all that being said, went ahead, they put me back under that general jurisdiction, and man, they did not recognize anything that I had to say. So much so that the bailiff came over at the end, just to make the long story, it's already long, short for you guys. He came over at the end after me sitting there going back and forth with them, and the judge said, if you say one more thing other than guilty or not guilty, I'm going to hold you in contempt of court. And I said, I'm innocent. I was bugging that one. And he said, bailiff. The bailiff came over. Big old juggernaut type guy. Big old juggernaut white guy with the bald head. And he came over there, man, to this small town, USA. And we playing tag in the courtroom. I'm like, I'm not about to let this boy touch me. I'm too quick. And then finally he cornered me in the wall. Boy took me, he started pow, pow, pow. And he's hitting me in the stomach. And that's when I realized that, oh man, I'm not about to fight him in this courtroom. He will kill me in this room today. And I just let it happen. You know, he arrested me, took me down, and got held in contempt of court for 3 days. However, on the when I first got checked in, that's when they told me that, hey, yeah, you have 2 felony charges against you. And my heart dropped. I was like, felony charges? Oh, shoot. This just got real fast. And they said, yeah, you know, you were resisting arrest. And I'm like, that's a felony? It depends. And they're like, depends on how many times they had to tell you to stop resisting, or how long it took you before you stopped resisting for them to arrest you. So yeah, it could be a misdemeanor, but they gave you a felony for it. And then obstruction of government property, because when he ran me up against the wall, my jacket marked up their wall in the courtroom, and so that was labeled obstruction of government property. So, yeah, was facing up to 10 years for both of those charges. Max would have been 5 each. And yeah, it got real quick, real fast in February 2023. So now, you know, I had to really lock all the way in with this law thing. Cause it's like, okay, now I have 2 felonies on my head, and I need to figure out what I'm gonna do to get out of this one, cause I'm in it now. I'm in the deep end, baby. So, yeah, that was February 2023. By April of 2023, I'm going on this date with this girl, and I'm about to go on this date, and I went over to Kroger real quick. I got lined up, you know. Everything was looking good. Went to Kroger real quick to get some coconut water. Harmless Harvest, of course. And when I came out, my truck is going off. I'm like, what is going on? My truck is going off. I must have hit the button. And I look, and there's 2 guys in my truck. Mind you, that same day, I bought this really nice duffel bag, man, that I have been wanting for months. And it was like $250. And it was nice, real nice bag. And they were in my truck, taking all my stuff out my truck, bro. And I was like, oh, what? Nah, this can't be. So I walked around that truck, and I seen there was a car right next to it. One guy in the truck taking the stuff off, taking the stuff out, putting it in the other car with the other guy. And I'm like, I just snapped. I just lost it. And I just rushed him. Now, hindsight 2020, bro. Probably shouldn't have rushed him. He had a gun in his hand. And I seen the gun, but I was just like, what? And I rushed him. And God was like, Negro, sit down. It was raining outside. I had my Tim boots on, and I busted my knee so bad on that concrete. And it was, I had the ripped jeans on, so I hit the skin, busted wide open, and needless to say, I didn't go on the date that night. I went home, and man, that was crazy. They took me I had my guns in the car and the duffel bag, and yeah, that was a sad case. But yeah, that's Atlanta for you, man. And I was like, man, you know what? Okay, I'm going home. Like, I went home. My sister came. She brought some stuff for me to clean up, and had to file a police report. People outside saw it. They're like, hey, man, that was messed up, man. What happened? We saw the whole thing. I saw the whole thing. The police on their way right now. I'm just like, all right, man. So yeah, I had to go through that whole process, and at this point, I'm like, okay, this is a real tribulation season right now, okay? But you know how we are when we're in the faith. It's just kind of like taking on the chain. We know it's spiritual, and then we keep moving. So with that, took it, kept moving. That was in April. May, got let go from my job, layoffs. Alright, so now I got felonies on my head, no money, got, trying to figure this whole thing out. I dove all the way into this law thing at that point. Now I'm really in it. It's becoming an everyday thing. He's giving me time to really lock all the way in a way that most people probably wouldn't be able to. And I was able to really see, okay, who knows this the best? There's a lot of people that claim that they know it, and then there's those that really actually know what they're talking about. And so, locked into them, I'm starting to get really, really more into it. So yeah, during that time period, I learned a lot. Was starting to make a lot of moves, reading a lot of books. And I say that's where I put in the most amount of work to really know what I'm talking about when it comes to this law. It was in 2023. I did a lot last year as well, 2024, and actually implementing the law. But just knowing, because you have to first get the framework and know, is this person, full of BS? Is this person really telling the truth when it comes to this? Like, who are these people? And then who's the gurus? So getting into all that, it can be a lot. But I had time on my hands, and I had 2 felonies on my head. So, went ahead, got into it. And by that next year, January of 2024, man, I was just praying that God just removed these felonies from over my head so I didn't have to deal with them. But, it didn't really quite work out like that. Called down there just to see where the case was at that time in January, and they're like, oh yeah, we've already had a grand indictment and you have to come down here on February 7th. So was gearing up. Now I'm locked all the way in. I'm getting ready to go to war, and studying what I need to do. My courtroom, there's a whole thing with going to court and how you're supposed to talk, and there's tricks in their words because you're dealing with demons, real live demons. And so they're speaking a different language. They're not speaking colloquialism or English. They're speaking legalese. And so with this, you have to know certain words that we speak on a day-to-day basis doesn't mean the same thing in the courtroom. So learning all that, making sure that my courtroom mannerisms are down pat, knowing how to move when I go in there. And one of the big ones is that you're not supposed to pass the bar. There's a line in every courtroom where the judge sits, the attorneys sit, where the court recorder, all of them, they sit over there. And then there's where the people sit in the pews, because it's really kind of like a church. And this is what got me in it, was because of my love for the law. When I first came into the truth, my love for the Mosaic law, I'm like, okay, no, this is how we're supposed to move. We're supposed to do this. And when we do these things, then, you know, we're in alignment with what God wants for us. And so taking that and understanding that the Levites were the first priests, fast forward all the way down to the Catholic Church, they were also, you know, we know who they are, but they are the priests. And so when you're dealing with church and state, the church would be the priesthood, the state would be the kingdom, right? So the Levites and the tribe of Judah, those were the two, church and state. One will manage the church, one will manage the state. And so with all that being said, when you're going into a courtroom, you're being summoned. Right? So when somebody summons you, that right there should let you know that you're dealing with witches and warlocks, because they're summoning you to come and appear in their courtroom. So it gets real deep with that, and the way that they dress in robes, and you're dealing with a spiritual thing when you're engaging in court, when you're engaging with these magistrates and judges, man-appointed judges. So anyway, February 7th, I go down to the courtroom, and I'm dealing with a vet. I sent all my stuff like I did last time, and you know, when you're in it, you fail forward. So you have to know, okay, I failed here. So this is, what did I do wrong? Go back and assess what I did wrong and continue forward. Where I failed in this instance was I didn't structure my paperwork correctly for it to be filed in the court for record. And so they denied my paperwork. So when I went down there, I didn't have the special appearance on file. So they were just treating me like any Joe Schmo that just walked in there. The judge denied it because it wasn't in proper format. Now when I walked in, I still tried to, you know, say my piece. I'm behind the bar, and I was just about to, you know, let him know who I am. And he was like, yeah, we get it. You're sovereign. You're on the land. He said everything that, you know, I needed to hear. He's like, yeah, but just come forward so that we can come across the bar so that we can go ahead and begin this proceeding. And I'm like, oh, well, okay. And the minute I stepped across that bar, it switched. Hit me with the whole woo-wop. And he just turned, and instantly, and he's like, you don't speak, you shut up. And had the DA put in not guilty on my record and took me to trial. This was the arraignment, the hearing. And I'm sitting there still trying to say my piece for the record. The other attorneys, the public attorneys that went to school to become attorneys, that say they're licensed to be attorneys but can't actually show you a license for their practice, they're sitting right over here laughing at me like hyenas. And that was the most, like, man, when I tell you demons, when I tell you demoniacs, man, I had to sit there and say my piece. And the judge wouldn't even let me speak for real. The court recorder's rolling her eyes, and, you know, it was a whole thing because you're supposed to get everything situated at the arraignment. You don't want to go to trial. So when I walked across that line and he set that trial date for me, it was like a dagger in my heart, because now I'm pretty much in their jurisdiction and I'm fighting their fight, and they have home court advantage. So after that, I was really kind of down on myself because I'm like, dang, I failed. And my cousin, he was like, don't trip, because he's the one that drove me down there. He's like, bro, don't trip. Like, you came out with your freedom. Like, we good. We're going home. You know, and live to fight another day. So went home. Next court date was March 13th. So with all that, I'm in it. I'm in my head deep. I'm in my head, and I'm getting ready to go to war again, March 13th. And so now all this time that I spent really learning the law and really trying my hardest to just go down there and speak my piece and get away with the victory. Now I'm having to fight a different fight. Now it's, okay, I have to completely surrender to you, Father, because I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. Now it's all you. My words can't get me out of it. Nothing I can do to get me out of this. This is all you. And so when I completely surrendered, and I remember having a conversation with one of my sisters, Courtney, in the faith, and I remember just talking about, what's the next move? Do I get an attorney? I can't get an attorney. Nah, because if I get an attorney, there's a good chance I'm going to prison if I get an attorney, because most attorneys, they're not in it for you. Their masters is the court. They're officers of the court. So you can't serve two masters. You can't serve me and defend me and be serving the court at the same time. Their job is to make money. So I couldn't get an attorney. So what about a public defender? I get a public defender. I could still finesse it in a way where I could say my piece through the public defender, but we're just talking, and I remember saying, well, everybody in the Bible, they stood on their own 2 feet. They stood 10 toes down. Daniel, he spoke out of his own mouth. The Messiah, he spoke out of his own mouth. The 3 Hebrew boys spoke out of their own mouths. And I remember going down the list until I got to Moses. And I was like, the only one that didn't speak out of his own mouth was Moses. And that's because he didn't have faith. And as soon as I said that, it was like the Holy Spirit just, something clicked. And I was like, oh. She was like, yep, you felt that? I'm like, I felt that. I got to go back down there. I got to go back down there by myself. Well, I'm not truly by myself because I got the Father with me. But I have to go back down there and speak out of my own mouth. So I remember sitting there in that courtroom March 13th, 2024. And I'm in that courtroom. My heart is beating out of my chest. My heart, I can hear my heart because I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm getting ready to go to trial by myself. Again, I'm with the Father, right? But I don't have an attorney. I'm going to trial in this small town, facing 10 years with no attorney. I can still feel it. And I remember sitting in that room and watching the man before me get 26 years. And that just, oh my God. This man got 26 years for stealing a box of bait, a box of tackle out of an abandoned home. It wasn't abandoned, the people were just not living there at the time. I think they were gone for like 8 months, but he stole a box of tackle. He got 26 years. They gave him 13 probation. He had to do 4 months. 13 years probation. That's a long time. And they said, if you mess up, you're going to jail for 26. We're going to take you in. And I just remember everything in the court. Everybody that was in the court without an attorney, they all got up and they were like, hey, I need a public defender. Like, oh, this judge is not playing. And my heart is pounding. I'm like, oh my God. And then all I hear my spirit say is Matthew 5, 25, 26. 5, 25, 26. And my heart was pounding. But that verse was in my head even louder. As my heart's pounding, I can hear it. I know, because I went with my aunt the second time. And I know she can hear my heart, because I've never felt my heart beat so fast. And Matthew 5:25 is just in my head. And I was like, okay, why are you giving me this? And he was like, what does it say? And that was just one that I knew verbatim. Agree with your adversary while you're on the way with him. So before you go to court, lest your adversary hand you over to the judge, and the judge hand you over to the officer, and the officer throw you in prison. For verily I say to you that you shall not come out until you pay the very last farthing or penny. Until you pay the very last penny, you're not coming out of prison. And knowing that it's all banking, and knowing that, okay, wait a minute, Who's my adversary here? Well, my adversary is not the judge. My adversary is the district attorney, the city that's pressing these charges against me. So I need to go talk to the DA. So then they had a recess for lunch. And I went over to the DA and I'm like, hey, check it out. Talk to him, pretty much let him know. All this started from a speeding ticket. And this is a situation. He said, okay, go to lunch. I'm gonna review your record. I'll come back and I'll let you know something after lunch. Came back after lunch. I'm praying the whole time. I'm outside praying heavy to the Father. Come on, Father, send your holy angels. Send them, send them, send them. You know, it's just making war in the spirit. Come back after lunch, and the DA pulls me to the side, pulls me to a room, and he's like, okay, I saw you don't have any record. You have nothing on your record, so we're gonna go ahead and dismiss these charges. And when he said that, boy, and we went into that courtroom, and it's like a weight, the entire weight lifted off. And he said, don't leave yet. We still have to go up before the judge. And went up before the judge. He's like, may we approach the bench? Now we're at the bench, and it's just the three of us. And the attorney's talking to the judge. Hey, Your Honor, I talked to Julian, and this is what we came up with. Blah, 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 blah. And hey, the judge looks at me, and he's like, oh yeah, how you doing, Mr. Wright? How you doing? How you doing? And I'm like, how you doing, sir? How you doing, sir? Like we didn't have all that took place last month, right? It's just like, oh yeah, how you doing? And so then, you know, at that time I was still considering going to law school and everything. And so I told the attorney I was thinking of going to law school in the fall, and he told the judge, and he's like, oh, you plan on going to law school? I'm like, yes, sir, I'm thinking about going to law school. And he's like, you know you're not going to learn any of that sovereign citizen stuff there, right? And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I was like, oh, you know. And he looked at me in a way that was like, you were this close, but you still gotta work on that kung fu, young grasshopper. And it was like, it was only between us in a way that was like, oh, you knew what I was saying when I got up there and I said it last month. But you know that as soon as I crossed the bar that I'm in your jurisdiction. You knew what I sent down my paperwork, but you knew that it was formatted wrong, so you didn't accept it, you denied it. And in that moment, it was like getting another peek behind the veil and seeing the Wizard of Oz for who he truly is. I got a peek behind the veil the year before, where I went down and I saw the judge leave the courtroom and try to reset it and come back in. I didn't catch it till my second night that I was in jail, laying in the cell on the bed, and I'm like, what happened? And it just clicked. He reset the courtroom. But all that to say, now I'm in this courtroom a year later, and I'm getting to see behind the veil again. And when he dismissed those charges, my heart, man, was just so, oh man, it was so light. It was so beautiful to see the Most High, because I didn't have anything. I couldn't lean on my own understanding. I had to surrender. So completely surrender in a way that I'd never done before to achieve this victory. And that's when I knew, no matter how dark the night gets, you're gonna fight for me. Because I can't put my faith in anything else but you. Even now, the law, I don't put my faith in it anymore. It was like he had to remove all the vanity and pride and ego that can go into having knowledge, and for him to say, hey, you remember this. This is for you to remember as you move forward in this law, as I continue to increase your knowledge in this. This is for you to remember who is the stronghold of your life. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Whom shall I be afraid? Remember that. And so, yeah, without making this episode too long, I know it's getting lengthy now. But yeah, that was it. That was it. All praises to the Most High. He delivered me. He is my Savior. He is my King. If Yah is with me, who can be against me? And that day he proved it. That day he showed me that I am with you. I'm going to forever be with you, son. And he's with you as well. And again, I apologize because I know I'm speaking real high level on this law right now because I'm trying to tell the story without getting into the weeds too much. But I plan on sprinkling more here and there. And comment down below if there's anything that you'd like me to touch on a little bit more in detail. That's it for this video. I'm not trying to drag it too long. All praises to the Most High Yah. See you on Judgment Day.
Break it. The red pill brought me out of the matrix, so I see it off for what it is.